Well, welcome back. I really appreciate you coming again, TJ. I tell you, it's always a joy to get together with you and kind of re-talk about, rehash, I should say, our city council meetings. And so it was kind of interesting this week. Wasn't a whole lot of discussion on many items. I think most of the stuff in the regular session really came from the public comments. I think that yielded a lot more concern and conversation from council than probably anything else on the agenda outside of the grants that we've been doing for some housing. And East End Baptist Church came up. It was removed from the consent agenda. There was some discussion. At the end, the grant had been passed in a previous council meeting, had been authorized. And actually, I'll even remind folks, it was from last year. I mean, it wasn't even in the current year. The church received, or the CDC received, the monies. They decided originally they were going to try to restore a house, and just decided that it was not cost effective to do so. And so they were going to tear it down, and then they're going to find funds to rebuild a house. And so because they'd received the monies, and because the process is that, if you have a change in course, then you need to notify council. Yeah. And so that's what they did. So they raised their hand and said, okay, we've received the funds, we've changed the purpose of this. It's still consistent with the original grant, but we want to inform you. And of course that brought out some conversation, and but at the end of the day it passed, and that was really the only item on the agenda that I recall that really generated any discussion at all. Everything else is pretty routine. We say goodbye to Corey Mercer. I mean, he's had a great career here in Rocky Mount, 29 years for the city. I was there yesterday for his retirement party for a brief moment, and it's always good to see somebody be able to move on to that next stage, if you will.
I see it.
And he certainly paid his dues, but at the same time, change is not easy, despite what folks say.
Yeah, man, and I was there on the tail end of that, so it's good to see Chief off. I believe he's done a great job.
So you showed up for the food. I showed up for the speaking.
That's it, man. And I caught the tail end of his speech, and a couple of pictures, man. That being able to see his family and friends and staff come back. Our ex-clerk was there.
I saw her walk in, but I didn't get a chance to speak to her.
Yeah,
Pam.
So it's good seeing Pam come back, and Mike Varney was there. Varnell.
Yes,
so
right.
Our last chief went to school with Carter. So Coach Varnell was one of my coaches back in the day. So it was good seeing him come back, and just some former chiefs. So it was a good time. Like you said, it's hard to say goodbye, but it's an opportunity for another chief. We've got an interim at the moment. I'm not sure what our new manager's plans are for chief and how that process, but looking forward to it. There are a lot of changes.
And I'll say this, just observation, and of course you went through the training program, or at least part of the obstacle course at some point in time.
Brutal.
But the fire department really seems to have a bond, almost a brotherhood or sisterhood that just seems to be different than most other organizations within the city. And so when Varnell comes back, lots of people come back and they still consider that they're all part of the same family, and they've never really left, and they're still associated with each other. Yeah. And that really, I think, has got to enrich the culture that they have been able to manifest. And so it's just really great to see.
Man, you're talking about guys and girls who live with each other, 48 hours, 72 hours of the week,
You're right. I got to like you at some point, at least tolerate you, right?
That's it. Man. So, eating together, living together, and then you're going out, serving together. And so
risking your life together.
That's it. So it builds that bond, it builds that trust, and it creates a community to where, they just continue to have lifelong friendships and relationships. Yeah. So
man, it's
a
great
beautiful thing to see. Man.
Amen. And that was really the reason I underscored that and pointed that out. And, so I think probably most of the discussion came up from the public hearing. Not public hearing, the public petitions.
Comments,
we had 9 people who came and spoke on various topics, but the 2 that really stood out to me was one gentleman who came up and really was talking about crime and the challenges with crime, and then I got a chance to read the paper just briefly, I think it was today or yesterday, on that particular topic. And he was heartfelt. You could tell he was a little raw, or at least that was the sense I got out of it.
Yeah.
And interestingly enough, in the special called committee of the whole meeting, which followed, we had the crime report from the chief that he had presented to what I'm calling the alphabet agencies, plus the U.S. attorney's office as well as the DA. Excuse me, I'm trying to hiccup here.
Yeah, no problem.
But I think that's probably something we ought to talk about. It's something that keeps coming up. I know that in polls and surveys that I've done, for various things, whether I'm running for mayor or just other items, I try to put questions in. 65% of our African American population indicated that violent crime is number one issue for them, at least in the polls that I've done. And 50% of their Caucasian neighbors said the same thing. Regardless of how you measure it, whatever percentage, it is by far the number one issue that folks have top of mind. I mean, it far outweighs housing, far outweighs anything else that we talk about.
Yeah.
And it's not as easy as just snapping your finger and making it happen. It's true, the chief pointed out that he has 41 vacancies. Mm-hmm. We are doing a pay study. We're doing an increase. I had a chance to talk with city manager today, so I have a little sense of what that's going to be, but I don't feel at liberty to necessarily share it. But we are going to go up on the police, to try to make sure that we can fill the ranks. Mm-hmm. Policing is a problem all over the country.
Yeah.
The defund the police movement really, I think, has had a psychological impact in an adverse way to many police officers throughout the country, and clearly there's some bad actors out there, and clearly we need to deal with that. But we're an imperfect world, and so you're just going to have some of that, and that doesn't justify it. I'm not trying to, but it does say that not everybody's that way. But we're asking these people to go out there and risk their lives. We're asking them to protect us, and so it's hard. It's a hard enough job, and then not feel any kind of real appreciation for it has got to be difficult. It's just got to be.
Yeah.
So I was asking Peter Varney today, and in our meeting, I said, "Look, what is our competition? Just what do you think it is anecdotally?" And I don't really want to put words in his mouth, but basically what I was hearing is, look, we do compete with the Wilsons and the Greenvilles of the world. Mm-hmm. Our pay scales are pretty consistent with where theirs are, but we're also competing with Raleigh. I mean, it's 45 minutes away, and the Apexes and the Gardners and these places that have got this hyper growth. And so, that's just creating a lot of competition, and we're just going to have to step up and deal with that.
Yeah.
And of course, the event center conversation, which also you were talking about, we had it on your agenda, the committee of the whole after the meeting, really was talking in part about, off-duty police officers and the role that they would play in helping us, I don't want to say police the event center, but provide some protection, provide some, I guess protection is probably the
presence.
better word. Presence.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah. That's the word I was looking for. Provide some presence there, and to deter any kind of bad actors that exist, and so it's just all one big puzzle, right? It's not so linear, and it's not so siloed. It's all integrated, all interrelated, that it makes it a challenging prospect. So anyway, I think folks on the council took, and you included, spoke to the gentleman and just said, "Hey, look, this is where we are. These are the issues that we're seeing. This is what we're doing to work on it." And so, what's kind of your take on all of that?
He came from a very passionate place, and I think he did something that majority of, I think, the community doesn't do at public comment. He came with at least a potential solution,
right?
And so. My thoughts were, how do we connect him and allow him to sort of more than just voice, but help to shape with the police department, with council, with our department heads. How do we help shape what his solution is? Because I caught some of what he was saying, and it looks more programmatic, and I think Councilman Blackwell spoke up after Councilman Joyner called on him and said, "Hey, listen, we've got a program similar that helps with what you're talking about."
In fact, Jabbar Kelly, that's one of the functions he does at the OIC is to help with reentry and give people positive footing to be able to be successful.
Exactly.
So I just had to give a shout out to the other Councilman Walker.
That's it, man. So having those tools in place, figuring out how you can connect to those, but then seeing how you can also bring some type of innovation or creativity, because what I got from him is saying, "Hey, listen, even if I don't," and I don't think he said he didn't know about it, but either he knew about it and felt like more needed to be done, or he just didn't know about programming. And so he wants to figure out how can he play a part. And I can respect that from community when they come and say, hey, listen, I want to figure out, how I can help,
right.
rather than just saying, this is what you all need to do, or this is what you need to do, and pointing fingers around. He sort of came with saying, hey, listen, this is something that I feel I can help be a part of. And so I'm sure he'll be able to help stand in the gap. Another part of that is we've got a great police force.
Mm-hmm.
We got a great chief. About a month ago, we had officer-involved shooting. And, I mean, that was just handled, man, with top-level professionalism.
Absolutely, it was. And clearly the training came out in a lot of that outcome. I don't want to interrupt you there. But,
no. I mean, that speaks to that point. I was in, where was I? Somewhere. I was at a conference a couple of weeks ago and spoke to some officers and former officers. As a matter of fact, it was town and state dinner.
Okay.
And there with our legislation and even, secret detailed officers and officers that are in Raleigh now currently. Most of these officers talk about how they come to Rocky Mount for training.
Really?
And so hearing that, it kind of opened my eyes to say, hey, all right, if they're coming here to train, but they're turning around and they're circulating out,
right,
we've got to figure out some type of way, too, of how do we capture that population of officers that come here to train. Because, I mean, if coming here to train, you like, and it says a couple things. We've got, the top level training facility and staffing, and then also when you leave, it says something about there's something here that doesn't want you to stay. And so how do we find that blend and that mix? But to hear that, I was just blown away, man, at the number of officers that were, oh, you're from Rocky Mount? Wow. We train there. We send all of our officers there.
Right.
And I found out even we have officers here, it's hard to keep some because they train here, but then you can go somewhere else, based off our training and make $10,000, $15,000 more a year. So,
I do know we're working on that. I do know that pay study hopefully will address that, and I believe that it will.
That's good.
I'm not making excuses, but I will point out that we've had probably 3, maybe 4 leadership changes at that chief position over the last 10 to 12 years.
Yeah.
And it's just hard to undergo that much change in that leadership role and to maintain any kind of consistency. And that's not a dig on anybody in that chain.
Yeah,
it's just the reality that transition is hard and doesn't necessarily provide that consistency that we would want. But anyway, I do think we have a great chief. I'm with you 100%. I'm a huge fan.
Yeah.
We've got to get him the tools to be able to be successful, and I think hopefully this pay thing will be a big part of that, and to be able to fill his ranks.
That's great news.
It is great news, and the other thing too, 41 is a big number. I mean, I'm not going to sugarcoat that, but we always have vacancies in every department, in every sector of everything that any of us do, so it's not unusual to have a vacancy rate. It just feels like it's kind of exasperated here recently, and we've got to work on it. So, but so I guess really the point of the gentleman who came in is something I've heard someone say. So our violent crime is down over the 3-4 year period of time. Crime as a whole is generally better. The statistics are mirroring that out.
Yeah.
But I heard somebody at the table say, well, I hear you, but it sure doesn't feel that way to me.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so some role you're combating that. And so we've got to figure out how to get folks to a place that they feel secure as well. And that's what I think polls are showing as well. Mm-hmm. And I just don't know what the magic bullet on that is.
Well, a lot of it is media. It's so hard to keep media. I mean, anything that happens, you've got social media and you've got Telegram and other media outlets where they can get firsthand on any type of crime.
Right.
And so they go ahead and they report it, and it's out, and the city really hasn't taken and I think we do a great job of reporting. Kirk Brown gets information out.
I'm very proud of our attempt at, I hate to use the word transparency because it's so overused, I feel like, but getting it out as fast and factually, I'm very proud of that. I mean, I know that we've received some criticism, but, there's no conspiracy. It's out there. It is what it is.
Yeah.
We capture our guy more often than not. That's the piece that a lot of people are missing too.
Yeah.
I mean, the police are capturing and arresting these offenders, but the close rate is mighty high.
It's like 98%. There's one or two cases that are open. But other than that, and they were closing them in 24 to 48 hours. It's a closed case.
Absolutely.
It's on to the DA.
It's impressive.
Yeah.
But that's also the other point. So, the police can't be proactive. They are reactive by very nature of who they are and what they do. Once you arrest the individual or individuals, then somebody else has got to prosecute them. So that's not their role. So the police are doing what they're supposed to do.
That's it.
But I think it does outline maybe some other weaknesses or some other challenges, some other areas that perhaps we need to look at as well.
Definitely.
But anyway, I stepped on you there. I'm sorry.
Oh, no,
I just got kind of excited,
It's good to be able to have that. To be able to have that staff personnel that tells a story from our perspective. That, like I said, the danger is just social media, Telegram. That's almost most of the time going to be firsthand and received from the public, and then it's spread. And then the narrative start. From each individual's different perspective about it.
That's right.
And that can cause people to feel. I think the last violent crime we had was a murder, 2:30 a.m. at the gas station. That's an isolated event. It's at the gas station. It's in a public place. It's also 2:30 in the morning. Right. So there are a lot of different ways where you can look at it and say, hey, am I out at 2:30? And if I am, what am I doing?
Mama said nothing good happens after 11, right?
That's it. So, it's a lot that goes into play with a lot of the crime that I think if we just had conversations with some of our constituents, it could make them feel a little bit more at ease to know that they're not in harm's way.
Right. Well, the thing that was interesting, too, in the police chief's report is that I'm working off memory, so I may not have it exactly right, but I believe it was 70% of the murders that occurred last year in the city of Rocky Mount, 70% were directly related to domestic violence.
Yeah.
Well, that's a big number, 70%, and it suggests that perhaps, mental health, it suggests that perhaps other outreaches perhaps or other approaches may be in order. I mean, that's just a staggering number to me.
He talked about it, and you're right. 70% was the number I remember. Okay. And, again, that's isolated.
Right.
It's nothing widespread in community, nothing where communities at harm. And I'm not saying we haven't had public violent crime events where, they were in the public around others and, others could have been in danger, but for the most part, 70%, man, that's a huge number to say, hey, listen, this crime is between two individuals.
That's right. That's right.
It's completely isolated.
That's right. And what I'll say is divorce is not that expensive.
Yeah.
but it is staggering to me that would be that number. So anyway, and not to minimize violent crime, we need to stop it. We need to reduce it. We need to get people to a place that they feel safe.
Yeah.
We're trying to equip the chief to be able to have some more tools in it. But again, they're doing the job.
Yeah.
They capture the guy and turn him over to the judicial system. So we got to start looking at maybe some other societal reasons that these things are happening, and not just here, but nationally. You're seeing it.
And post-COVID, it all plays into effect.
So we were talking. The other thing that kind of came up was a lady who was talking about her utilities being kind of high.
Yeah,
and that's something I think most people in Rocky Mount still believe is true. Mm-hmm. I would like to point out, what was pointed out is that, look, we bundle our bills, so you get the water, sewer, electric, gas, all rolled into one bill. Always makes it seem a little bit higher.
Yeah.
But our kilowatt cost is actually very consistent with the area that we're in, and in many cases, it's lower.
Yeah.
Kinston, we're like 20% lower on our electrical fees than they are.
Yeah.
Halifax County, I believe, also had a very high rate relative to where we are.
Definitely.
So that's a real issue, and I know that nobody wants to pay that utility bill, and it sure does hurt. And it's hard to budget because it's not the same number every month. It might be $100 this month, it might be $500 the next, depending on how cold it's been. If you had a water leak or a myriad of issues.
That's it. And I think, looking at debt service, a lot plays into it. Debt services, department head fees, from each department that's pulling from. So I think there's a lot. And Latasha Hall, who's the business service director, her staff provided, pretty much a memoir or so in the council chambers where they did maybe 3 or 4 days a week to try to explain the process and procedurally, what happens. And maybe some people might have just missed it, but I think having that information directly from the department to tell you exactly why this is, what it looks like, and what we're doing to try to help and what resources we have to help. I think that helps out a lot. So I haven't received much feedback about how those courses went, but I'm sure that was a plus, for the city.
And that's a great point. I mean, we do have a lot of resources out there. The Warm Fund. There are other things that we will work with people to try to not turn off the utilities to the extent that we can. And if anybody's listening is in that situation, I encourage them to call the city, figure out what plan maybe works for them, because really you don't want people to be without air conditioning in particularly hot weather or without heat in particularly cold weather, and not having water and sewer is just unsanitary. And so we really, we do want to work with people. Now you still have to pay the bill.
That's it.
But there's a lot of vehicles out there to try to assist to the extent that the city can. And this is really kind of unrelated to the particular challenge that she brought forward, but the utility department, if you remember, we were losing linemen left and right. We were down to, I think we have 5 crews. We were down to like 3, I believe it was.
Started 7 out.
That's exactly right, and it was getting pretty costly to us. So that was one of those where we did another pay study as it related to what are the competitive rates in the marketplace. And again, I think we're all full now. I think our crews are all filled back up. I think that we were able to address the challenges. We were able to restore the manpower and the depth and the bench that we needed to be able to make that happen. So, here again, applaud the city for what they're doing. I think we really need to probably talk about welcoming our new city manager. It starts Monday. Monday is his first day.
Monday is going to be day one. I'm excited about it. I think we made the right decision with our hire, and I'm looking forward to Mr. Rogers coming in. He's got a lot of challenges, facing him, a lot of vacancies, and just various challenges. But the upside is so much potential, and I think with his leadership and with his vision, I think he'll do great here in the city of Rocky Mount.
I had an opportunity to speak at the Kiwanis Club. They invite me, once a year or once every 18 months or something such as that. I guess when they get really low on their speaker.
They try to fill in.
That's right. I guess I'm that guy. I guess we always do the mayor this time.
Yeah.
But one of the things I was encouraging that group, and what I'm trying to encourage everybody I talk to is that, look, Mr. Rogers has a big job. He's got a lot of holes that he's got to fill in his staff. We don't have a finance manager for the city. We have only one assistant manager, and typically we run 2 or 3.
Yeah.
And there are a number of other departmental positions that are vacant. And Peter, when he took over in the interim role, really I've been likening him to the little Dutch boy in the dike, kind of holding his finger in there to keep it from bursting. But he really hasn't been in a position where he can make those hires, particularly when you have a new manager coming in and you don't even know who they are. You don't even know what they're trying, what direction they're going, and those sorts of things. So he's been kind of in this place where he's, again, just kind of hold the status quo, do the best you can, and I think he's done a remarkable job with that. But we really need to consider that Keith, I think, needs a good solid 2 years just to kind of get the team together to be able to be a credible and an effective manager for the city. And I believe he's that guy. But my concern and my prayer, my concern is that we're going to lose patience. He's going to get a honeymoon. Everybody does, but that honeymoon needs to be 2 years, not 6 months, not 3 months. And again, I think he's competent. I think he's got the skill set. I think he can make it happen. I mean, no questions that I think he's the right guy. However, I don't care. Michael Jordan still needed a team to work with, right? In fact, he's a great example, right? He took a pay cut so that the salary cap could buy a better team.
That's it. So, and we're going to have to give him that support to create his team, and to go out and find the best, that he feels fits his style and what he's aiming to do. And I'm looking forward to it. But that's a great point that you make, to try to just encourage the community to say, hey, listen, we're going to need a little time.
That's right.
Yeah, we're going to need a little time.
That's right. And, my father used to call it changing a tire while you're driving down the road. And that's a little bit of what he's got to do. I mean, you can't stop. You got to keep going, but it's awful hard to change that tire.
I'm telling you.
It's got to be done.
Yeah, that's it.
So what other observations? I mean, we're down to the last couple of minutes here in the show today. Do you think that I kind of left out in this summary? And what did you see that maybe?
It was good. I mean, quick meeting. Our special call committee of the whole led to more conversation and a little debate. But, I think I made the point at the end of that meeting just about how our values and how we prioritize our values just lead to those indifferences. And that's fine. It's just a matter of respecting each other in the chambers, for business meetings, because that's what we're still conducting business. Whatever we do off air, off camera, and we've got technology is different, so everyone's watching. Everyone. It's not the day where you can may hear or see the telegram and there are a few footnotes about what went on. We're televised, we're streaming, so people are picking up on it firsthand about what we're doing as a reflection as leadership and leaders of the city. So just trying to push us to more of a respectable manner to handle business.
Right. And to your point, I mean, I like differences. I mean, I like differences of opinion, and I like the conversation to the extent that that it's respectful and people are listening. Yeah, it's a beautiful thing. When you've closed off your mind, then it just becomes
man, it's just at that point it's a battle.
That's right. That's right.
And I'm trying not to lose now.
That's right. I guess really the only other thing then, speaking of which, is that we are going to go on retreat. It looks like it's going to be in Durham. For a day or two, and the primary focus, it looks like it's going to be around redevelopment and development of downtown and those sorts of things. And so hopefully that'll be a very, very productive meeting for us.
Man, I'm excited about it. Yeah. And having Capital Broadcasting here in Rocky Mount, they've already done work in Durham. They're pretty much finishing touches they're adding in Durham to try to complete some of their downtown development. But having them here as private partners, it's good to go to a city where they've already executed, and they can share their wins and losses there, and we'll get to look around the city and see it. And we'll be away from Rocky. We won't be going too far.
No. It's basically local. If you live in East North Carolina, you got to drive more than 30 minutes if you want more than a bottle of beer and a loaf of bread, right? So
that's it.
Anyway, well, look, we're out of time, man. I appreciate you coming. I always appreciate you and what you do for the city, and so thank you so much for being here today.
Man, I appreciate it. Always great.